Covfefe. I got to put my Covfefe a little closer so I can get to it. How you guys doing? And gals. Hey Shannon. Hey Michael. What is going on, everybody? Having a good Friday, I hope. It's been a while. I haven't been on video for, gosh, almost a couple of weeks probably. I've been very busy doing a lot of different things, recording some videos, getting back to work on some books, and getting ready for a conference. But I have been following the news. I've been up on what's going on. And I have three things I'd like to talk about today. They are healthcare, or what I'm calling health scares. President Trump and his undignified tweets, and an interesting tweet from Eric Holder that came out about 12:30 this morning. So those are the issues I want to talk about this morning. So there is this continuing drama going on with the Senate and the health care bill, and they can't get the votes, and what are they going to do? And Democrats are kind of, saying, well, we need single-payer health care, and a lot of debates and discussion going on. Rand Paul had a very interesting proposition. Seeing that it's hard to get the majority and all of the Republicans to vote on one bill for health care, he came up with a brilliant idea the other day. And he's actually had this idea for a while. Rand Paul, being a libertarian, wants the government out of healthcare as much as possible. He just doesn't believe that government should be in healthcare at all. It's not in the Constitution. There's nothing in the Constitution that says government should be providing healthcare. Single payer as a option for health insurance, not healthcare, it's health insurance. Anyone in this country can go to a hospital and get treated for a condition. Okay, you don't need insurance. You don't need coverage. You can get health care without having health insurance. The hype and hysteria that people are going to die because they don't have health care is not true. It's hype and hysteria. I have been doing EMS for 35 years, transported a zillion people to the hospital and out of the hospital into nursing homes and rehabs and different places, and a lot of them didn't have insurance. They still get health care. This is not an issue of health care. It's an issue of health insurance. It's who's going to pay for it. That's the real question. So when I have, unfortunately, all these Canadian friends who think, oh, there are people dying in America because they don't have access to health care. That is not true. Anyone in America has access to health care. Now, you may not be able to go to a specific primary care physician or a doctor or whatever because you don't have the right insurance. It's a different issue. That doesn't mean you don't have access to health care. It means you're limited in your ability to have a primary care provider. But if you have a ruptured appendix, if you have a stroke, if you have a sudden problem with asthma, you can go to the hospital and get treated. And they're going to treat you in the emergency department. If you need to go to the ICU, they'll send you there. You'll be taken care of. They're not going to let you die because you don't have insurance. Now, you will get a bill, but it's been my experience and in my family, we have people in our family who did not have insurance. And they ran up some huge hospital bills. And all they did was write to the hospital and say, I'm indigent, I don't have insurance, I don't have any money. And the hospital has done one of two things. They have either completely wrote off the entire hospitalization bill and just wrote it off as a loss because the hospital can take a tax break on anything they write off. When Denise went in and she had a kidney infection, her emergency department bill was $3,000 or $4,000 for being in the ER for like 2 hours. They put us on a payment plan and they said, how much do you want to pay a month? And she said, what do you mean? And the hospital said, just tell us however much you want to pay. And she said, well, so if I want to pay $10 a month, you'll take $10 a month? And they said, yeah, we just need to know that you're going to be making payments. Just pay it off as slow or as fast as you want. So it's not like you don't have access to health care if you don't have insurance. So the Senate will come up with a bill. It's not a question of are they going to have a health care bill? They are. It's only a question of what is it going to look like and when will they have it voted on? And then do they go to the House and do a reconciliation, iron out the differences between the House and the Senate versions, and then they'll have a bill. Now, what Rand Paul came up with, and he proposed this to the president, and the president was like, that's actually a pretty good idea. Split it into two bills, okay? And what Rand Paul is suggesting is that because Republicans tend to be more on the side of let's repeal Obamacare, and they're having more problems with what are we going to pay for and fund. Democrats are more on the issue of, hey, let's pay for and fund everything. Let's just throw money at this problem and hopefully that'll fix it. So what Rand Paul is saying is, let's get the Republicans to vote on repealing the regulations and the taxes that are in Obamacare, and then do a separate bill that would fund the healthcare system that needs to be in place. And we'd be more likely to get Democrats to vote in on that. I think it's a really interesting idea. I think the president is interested in it. He has said if this current measure that they're working on falls apart and they can't get the votes, maybe they go to a situation where they split it into two bills. I don't know. There will be a resolution on this healthcare bill. It's nothing to be afraid of. When you hear the terms full repeal of Obamacare, that is not going to happen. That is what Rand Paul wants. Rand Paul wants a full total repeal of Obamacare. That is not going to happen. Not going to happen. The first measure that the Senate came out with had a whole bunch of provisions that would repeal taxes that Obamacare put in place on different people for different things. That's how they paid for this very expensive program, was all these taxes. So what is going to happen probably if they go down, either way, however this ends up, the Senate and the House will vote on a bill that will repeal and get rid of a lot of these taxes for different things. There's taxes on prescriptions, there's taxes on everything. And the regulations. The regulations are the other part of it that needs to be repealed. It's just, there's too much regulatory red tape in all of this. So regardless of whether they do a two-part repeal and then fund, or whether they do it all in one, they're going to have to write provisions in that will remove the taxes, remove the regulation, and then fund some other things. Now, don't be concerned. It's not going to be a full repeal. And when the new legislation goes into place, first it has to go through the Senate, House, voted on, signed by the president, then it has to take place. It's not going to take place immediately. Obamacare, if you're on Obamacare, is not going to go away immediately. There's a provision where it's going to take a certain amount of time for the new system to come into place and for people on the old system to find something else. So it's not going to be, hopefully if they get this thing done soon, they'll get it done before all of the insurance carriers in different states pull out of the Obamacare exchanges. And that's what's happening. I mean, that's the scary thing is there are a lot of states now that only have one carrier, and there's a lot of counties that have no carriers. If you're on Obamacare and that's your only option, you don't have any insurance carriers. So hopefully they'll get this done soon. I don't think there's anything to be afraid of. The president is not going to sign a bill that is going to screw people over. If it does not take care of pre-existing conditions, and if it does not take care of people who need good coverage, I don't think the president will sign it. He just won't. And I think the Senate and House know that. And I'm happy that the president got really involved in the House bill, and he's really involved in the Senate bill. When the Senate takes a vote, nope, can't get the votes, or they're getting ready to do a vote and they don't have the votes, Trump sends buses over to the Senate, puts them on the bus, come over to the White House, let's talk, let's iron out some differences, let's see if we can come to a consensus on what we're doing here. So I am happy to see that the president is intimately involved in the process. Ultimately, it's up to the House and Senate to decide what this is going to look like, but the president is very involved in the process, and I think that's good. All right, so the second thing I want to talk about is the president's tweets toward Mika Brzezinski and Morning Joe. All right. Start out by saying, if it were me, I would not have done that. But the president is of a different personality type than I am. Okay? And you're a different personality type than me and the president. We all respond to things differently. We all have different ways of interacting with people. Some of us are introverts. Some of us are extroverts. Some of us are very analytical, and we are driven by logic and things that make sense. Some of us are driven by emotions. Some of us are very pragmatic and practical in our way of approaching life, and some of us are much more driven by morals and ethics, and we're not so concerned about whether it's pragmatic and practical. We want to know if it's legal and ethical. All of these different things go into making up the different personality types. Okay, Trump is a personality type that is a little bit unusual. He is what Myers-Briggs personality type is the ESTP. David Kersey calls this personality type the artisan promoter. And if you study personality types, okay, what he did with his tweets is exactly in keeping with that personality type. That's just how they respond. That's how they're wired. Okay, the artisan promoter personality type is Trump is a classic example of these people. They're very motivated. They are somewhat a little bit of loners. They really believe in themselves, and they have a lot of self-confidence. They're probably the most self-confident of all the personality types. They tend to be egotistical. They tend to be, their interaction with other people is they would rather live and let live. That's their first priority with interpersonal relationships. I leave you alone, you leave me alone. Because for this promoter, for this personality type, it's not in their best interest to attack people. They try to promote their ideas and their goals and their agendas, and they try to recruit people to help them forward their goals and the things they want to build and the things they want to do. Alienating people is not in their best interest. So that's not they're in their personality type to go out and just alienate people. However, it is consistent with this personality type that when they feel they are cornered and being attacked, they will lash out. And that makes them kind of they're the cornered wild animal. If you corner a wild animal, it's going to attack you. It's going to come out and lash out at you because it feels like it's being threatened. Okay, that's consistent with this personality type. So, I retweeted something this morning on Twitter. It's a tweet from the president from 2012, 5 years ago, where the president said, you know what, I'll read it to you if you want me to. The president was making an observation about people giving him advice and how he responds to critics. And he said, everybody tells me not to hit back when the lowlifes go after me for PR. Sorry, but it's not my nature. Okay? Trump knows it's in his nature that if you are going to take swings and you're going to attack and criticize and ridicule and make fun of him, eventually he's going to hit back. He goes, it's my nature. He knows his personality type. He's 70 years old. He knows who he is. He knows he knows how he's wired in his DNA. So if you think that people giving Trump advice not to use his Twitter, not to retaliate, don't lash out at people, don't do that, it's not going to work. It is not going to work. That is how this personality type is wired. It's just how he is, and he's not going to change. He is not going to change. So I know all these people who are giving the president advice about toning down his Twitter, not lashing out and not tweeting at people. And all. He's not listening. You are talking to a brick wall. He's not listening. It's how he's wired. It's his personality type. So you should expect that the president will continue to punch back at people who are attacking him. Now, on the other side of the coin, Mika Brzezinski now and Morning Joe have all this sympathy that they have gained from their fellows in the mainstream media, and they are now being looked at as saints and as martyrs for the cause, right? Hey, you took you jumped on the hand grenade for us, and you pushed back against that tyrant, Nazi, oppressive, authoritative, president. Good for you. So now Morning Joe and Mika are heroes for the left and for the mainstream media. And look, it's good for them. Their ratings get to go up, right? And people are fawning and all over them and thinking they're great. And that's kind of how it is. And Trump knows that. He's totally aware of that. This whole thing may be a little bit of 4D chess. Trump has a history with Mika and Morning Joe. In case you didn't know that, in the tweet, he says Mika and Joe came to Mar-a-Lago 3 nights in a row around New Year's Eve. What are people doing on New Year's Eve? They're partying, getting drunk, doing coke, getting high, right? You want to party on New Year's Eve. They came to Mar-a-Lago 3 nights in a row. Hey, let us in. You got a party going on here. We want in. 3 nights in a row. Trump's like, forget about it. Not coming in. So there's a history here that you got to look into that tweet and realize there's more going on than just what's in the tweet. Interesting observation. A lot of people have criticized the president because his remarks are beneath the dignity of the White House. The president acted undignified. This is not how presidents should act. It's unpresidential, right? Can I read to you something from the Bible? I'm just going to read a verse or two, if that's all right. This is from 2 Samuel, chapter 6, starting in verse 14. And David, king of Israel, danced before the Lord with all of his might, wearing a priestly garment. And he and all the people of Israel brought up the ark of the Lord with shouts of joy and the blowing of the ram's horns. They were celebrating, they were partying. Victory, we got the ark, we're going to take it, right? But as the ark of the Lord entered the city of David, Michal, who is the daughter of Saul, okay, Saul was the guy who was king before David, but he kind of usurped David's position. Samuel, the prophet, had anointed David as king, and the people voted for Saul to be king. So Saul was king for a while, and then, so this is the daughter of Saul. So she hates David. All right. When they brought the ark of the Lord, set it in place inside the tent David had prepared for it, he did a burnt sacrifice and offerings and peace offerings. When he had finished his sacrifices, David blessed the people in the name of the Lord and heaven's armies. Oh, I think I missed a verse. As the ark drew near, she saw him looking out the window, and when she saw him leaping and dancing, she was filled with contempt or hatred for him. All right. When David returned home to bless his own family, she came out to meet him. And she said in disgust, "How distinguished the king of Israel looked today, shamelessly exposing himself to the servant girls like a vulgar person might do." David retorted, "I was dancing before the Lord who chose me above your father and all of his family. He appointed me as leader of Israel." Ooh, wow, that's kind of arrogant. You thought your dad was supposed to be king, but God chose me as king. All right? The people of the Lord, so I celebrate before the Lord. Yes, I'm willing to look even more undignified than this. even to be humiliated in my own eyes. But to those servants' girls you mentioned, will think indeed I am distinguished. So she left and remained childless her entire life. He said to her, you might think I'm undignified, but these based, common people are rejoicing with me, and they will see me as a dignified and distinguished person, regardless of how you see me. You think I'm undignified, I'm going to be even more undignified. Get over it. I'm the king. I'm going to act how I want to act. I personally think Trump is much more like King David than anybody else in history. He was a rogue, right? David had an affair with Bathsheba and then killed Bathsheba's husband. And people would say, how could a murderer be king? Chosen by God as king. Look at all the stuff that Trump has done. Everyone's complaining. Oh, Trump is... Did you hear the Billy Bush tapes? Did you hear that he's going to grab women and he's going to do this? What a disgusting pig. Undignified. You know what? God doesn't care. God's bigger than that. Moses was a murderer. So was Paul. God doesn't always choose the distinguished and dignified things of the world. So I just find that incredibly interesting. All right. Moving right along. We've got many things to cover here, you know. We won't be dilly-dallying. All right. So next thing is, what is going on with Andrew McCabe? Now, a lot of you on Periscope who are following Adam, and you're following Sarah Carter of Circa News, this is not news to you guys, you know this. But Andrew McCabe, our current FBI director, is currently under investigation for 3 different things. He has been under investigation for a while now. This is Office of Inspector General. They've been investigating him for a possible Hatch Act violation. He's actually been found wearing election related clothing and doing sort of campaigning stuff for people who are running for political office. That is absolutely not okay if you are in the FBI. They have very strict regulations about being involved in anything that's political or campaigning, and he is being investigated for that. Number 2, he is being investigated, and this has been going on for a long time, for a potential conflict of interest in relation to the Hillary Clinton email investigation. He took $675,000, not he, his wife, and this is from McAuliffe, governor of Virginia, very close friends with Hillary. They gave her money, and McCabe's wife gets money from these friends of Clinton, and then McCabe is in charge of the Clinton email investigation. Conflict of interest. Should have recused himself. Senate Judiciary Committee and the Office of Inspector General has been on his case now for a long time, trying to get answers as to what's going on here. All right. Third thing. 2 years ago, General Mike Flynn got involved in a case with an agent by the name of Robin Gritz. Well-respected agent in counterintelligence, decorated, well-known, respected in the community. She, along with other people, filed complaints. She filed a complaint against Andrew McCabe for basically sexual discrimination, not sexual harassment, sexual discrimination. And Mike Flynn wrote a letter supporting her charge against McCabe, and he volunteered to testify as a witness on her behalf against McCabe. So now there is this new question. Did the FBI go to FISA court and get permission to do surveillance on Ambassador Kislyak, hoping that there would be a conversation with Mike Flynn that they could nail Flynn in a trap and then leak it to the press? Was this retaliation? Did McCabe retaliate against Flynn because he was involved in the Robin Gritz case? That is probably going to be investigated as well. So you have an FBI director now who is being investigated for 3 different things. McCabe is in trouble. He's got a lot of bad things. That's just the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot more going on with Andrew McCabe's life than people know about. And that brings us to Eric Holder's tweet this morning, and I'm going to read it to you, if I could. I just saw this on Twitter this morning. Eric Holder tweeted out at 12:17 this morning, to the career men and women at the Department of Justice and FBI, your actions and integrity will be unfairly questioned. Be prepared, be strong, duty, honor, country. Now, this is Eric Holder, former Attorney General before Loretta Lynch under Obama, is now tweeting out to FBI and DOJ, your actions are going to be unfairly questioned. What does that mean? Where is that going, Holder? What are you telling us? Why should the DOJ and FBI agents and attorneys be concerned that they're going to be unfairly questioned? What is that all about? Okay, so think about this. We now have Loretta Lynch, former Attorney General, under investigation. We have Susan Rice, who now has just recently announced she is asking to testify in front of the Senate Intelligence Committee about unmasking. John Podesta just testified in front of the Intelligence Committee Monday or Tuesday. I think it was Tuesday. And if you listen to Adam's last scope, the big joke was, what did Holder say when he went into the Intelligence Committee? And the answer is, nobody knows, because it was a closed hearing. Nobody knows, but neither does Hillary, neither does Susan Rice, neither does Ben Rhodes, neither do any of these people from the Obama administration. They don't know what Podesta said when he went in and testified. They don't know what Comey has said behind closed doors. They don't know what McCabe has said behind closed doors. Here, I'm going to simplify this for you, if I could. And Adam has pointed this out repeatedly. Comey is the guy who has access to everyone. Comey, as head of FBI, has access to who was unmasked, how it was done, who it was leaked to. He has access, he knows who in the National Security Council was doing what unmasking. He knows all, he has intelligence, he has information on everybody. He knows who is in the DOJ who was leaking information, probably. He knows anyone in the NSA who has been having some sketchy behavior. Comey knows everything. And Comey is probably able to be charged with some with some felonies, leaking and some other things. If Comey is in danger of being charged and sent to prison, what if I were Jeff Sessions, I would put pressure on Comey and say, look, you know how this works. You're the director of the FBI. You tell us what you know, we'll give you immunity. You don't tell us what you know, and we're going to prosecute you to the fullest extent of the law, and you'll be in jail until you're probably 75 years old. So there's this question now. If Comey flips, and if Comey asks for an immunity deal, he then has to, in order for him to get immunity, he has to agree to cooperate with all investigations. He has to agree to tell the truth. In every question that he's asked, he has to be honest and truthful. As soon as he lies or refuses to answer a question, his immunity is gone. When they give you immunity, it is based on cooperation. and honesty. If you do not cooperate and if you are not honest, your immunity is gone and you can be charged. And all the people who were investigated, they weren't even really investigated during the Hillary Clinton email investigation, if you want to call it that. So the FBI gave immunity to a lot of people and told them, you're not in danger, you didn't do anything wrong, we're not going to charge you, we just need to get some statements, right? So the people who got immunity from the FBI under Comey for the Clinton email investigation are not under immunity for anything that has to do with unmasking, leaking, anything of that nature. Even for any conflict of interest, if they had a position in the government and they should have recused themselves from something and they didn't, they don't have immunity from that. So the people in the Department of Justice and FBI, the black hats who are trying to take down the Trump administration, they are all at risk of being exposed if Comey flips. If Comey does get immunity, and he's not going to get it from Mueller, okay, that's not going to happen. That's not how it works. The only person that's going to give Comey immunity is Jeff Sessions. And if they put the screws to Comey, and if he flips, he has to tell them everything about everybody in the DOJ and the FBI and Obama administration. And that is a long list of people who are involved in some very sketchy activity. So Lynch is under investigation. Comey is under investigation. Andrew McCabe is under investigation. You have an attorney general and 2 FBI directors who are under investigation. Possibly Sally Yates, assistant attorney general. You have all these very powerful people in the DOJ and FBI who are under investigation. That is what Holder's tweet is about. Holder is looking at all these people in the DOJ and FBI, and they're watching the brass come into closed hearings and testifying. And people in the National Security Council and the Director of National Intelligence, they're all coming into closed hearings to testify because they want to get their statements on the record, and they may be looking for immunity. So Holder's tweet, I think, is telling the people in the DOJ and FBI who are freaking out, watching all this go down, Holder is saying, hey, you're going to be unfairly questioned and your motives questioned. Hang in there, be strong, be a good soldier, don't worry about it. When I see that tweet from Holder, that tells me something is going on. Something is going on in the FBI and DOJ that is bigger than we know. And we're going to have to wait and see where that goes. I don't know where that's going to go. I don't know where it's headed. But I suspect there are going to be a whole lot more people going to the Senate Intelligence Committee asking if they can testify. I even saw that WikiLeaks tweeted out a tweet saying that Roger Stone is scheduled to testify in front of the Intelligence Committee on July 22nd. I'm like, really? They're going to let Roger Stone testify? Man, that's an inside joke. If you've been on Adam's scopes, you know what that means. And Joey's scopes, you know what that means. You get Roger Stone inside of an intelligence committee and let him testify, there is no way you're going to keep a lid on and control what he's going to say. He is going to say whatever he wants to say, and it'll be very entertaining, if in fact he's actually going to testify. I tweeted that out. It's on my Twitter line. WikiLeaks tweeted out. I don't know if it's true. It would certainly be amusing if Roger Stone did end up testifying. It's going to be a very interesting summer, folks. It is going to be an interesting... And right, Adam Schiff, exactly. Adam Schiff, who's a ranking Democrat, has been trying to block the testimony of people like Carter Page and Roger Stone. They don't want those guys to testify. They don't want to hear what they have to say because these guys want to get their names cleared. They want to clear the air. They want to tell the truth about what's actually going on. And Adam Schiff is not interested in hearing the truth. He wants to push his little narrative of, Russia collusion, and the Trump team was involved in collusion with the Russians and all this other stuff, and he wants that narrative to keep going. He doesn't want people coming in and blowing it up. So it will be very interesting to see who testifies and what comes out of it. I would just say, sit back. Hey, pop some popcorn, right? Anticipate there's going to be some interesting stuff coming out over the next few months. Keep the president in prayer. Keep his cabinet in prayer. Keep the Senate in prayer. Pray that they would come up with a solution for health care that would be fair to everyone, fair to the taxpayers, fair to people who need coverage. I would just keep those guys in prayer, and know that God's plan is being worked out, even though we don't always understand it. All right. I have some things I've got to record this afternoon, so I got to get going. Just wanted to hop on here, encourage you guys, let you know I'm praying for you. I love you guys. You're awesome. And gals, guys and gals. I'm from the Midwest, and for us, it's you guys. Guys means everybody. Guys, gals, everybody. Cats, dogs, it's all the same. All right. I am going to be signing off. I hope you have an amazing day. Take care. God bless. Thanks for tuning in.